Feeling good, looking good, ready for tonight. Know these ladies out here looking oh so right. Cause it's that kind of night. Yeah. Now I'm trying to figure out. It's that kind of. Come on. Cause it's that kind of. We're gonna have a good time. It's that kind of. Yeah. Cause it's that kind of night.
So what did my interviewees share in terms of their hopes and dreams for the future of Edmonton's Chinatown? Let's find out in this episode. Well, for you then, Linda, like you live here and Edmonton is home, right?
Yeah.
If I had to ask you, like, what would your ideal Chinatown be? And how do you think we could get there?
You know, honestly, I had a conversation with a developer in the city just before Christmas, and we're kind of, it's like this balance of gentrification, but also I like revitalization, right? So I've been talking. We had a conversation with a developer where it was like, do we just need to, update one building, and then there's sort of multiple new businesses that pop up here, and then does that start to re-attract people to Chinatown? I don't know. That's like one possible solution, but I really don't know. Is it in? I know there's so many like volunteers in Chinatown who work so hard to like clean it up every weekend. Is it that it needs like a facelift? Like what is it? Is it that we have people who tell us that they don't feel safe in Chinatown? Is it that we need to, like, what do we do to help people know that Chinatown is safe? Tons of people come here, tons of people shop here and eat here and have fun here. But is it like an image issue now? And then I don't think we need to dive into it, but I know early on in the pandemic, there was a bit of racism involved as well. And suddenly Asians and Chinese people, so therefore Chinatown, brought COVID here. And so we don't want to go there anymore. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think that's still the case necessarily here, but there's so many, I think, layers and challenges that I honestly, I don't know what the solution is.
It's tricky.
Is it that we need do we need a fancy bubble tea place to come in and like, bring the students out? Or, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. It would be so sad if, I don't even think that's possible. Chinatown, the end of Chinatown, I don't think that's possible. But is it like we need new businesses that come in and kind of inject life back into the area? Is that the solution? So a mix of old and a mix of new,
right?
Plus all the other layers to it. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but it would be I think it would be sad if there was like no Chinatown, but I don't think that could ever be.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Like when I think about a future for Chinatown, it's also kind of a future for maybe like the Chinese community. And like I have a 1-year-old and he's of mixed like Chinese, Egyptian and Irish heritage, right? And I see other cultural communities who are inclusive, like of mixed generations, and like it's not about how much you are. It's like, okay, like if you're connected and you want to learn and you have like good intentions, right? Like you can be here. And I would love to see like a more welcoming like future for Chinatown, like whether it's one geographic spot or it's kind of like this dispersed network of relationships, right? Like maybe Chinatown in Edmonton in the future is not just like 97th, 98th Street, like parts of Boyle and Macaulay. Like maybe we don't think of it that way. Maybe it becomes these networks and these relationships, right, that have sparked from people meeting each other around the community, or it's like the knowledge that people are like taking forward, right, and applying to like their future work. And so maybe it doesn't need to be, maybe this is controversial, but I think over the years I've been thought like maybe it isn't about this one site, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like I think one more thought I have though for the future, like of the actual like physical neighborhood is, you know, looking around the neighborhood. It's like, well, there's not a ton to do. Like if I was to bring my son here, like if you even look, like there's not really spots to like, there's not like benches, like there's not a playground. Well, if you go into Macaulay, there's great, but like, so I think it'd be really exciting to see the actual like built form of the neighborhood just be more like senior friendly and child friendly, and also to just like show some love to some of the existing spaces like Mary Burley Park. Like I feel like that park is so overlooked, has an amazing like story behind its namesake, and that's a generational difference too, because I think like maybe like we're like, oh, it'd be great to have more spaces for walking and biking and parks. And then like talking to, you know, some of the older folks who've been around longer, they're like, we need more parking. We need parking so that Chinatown is accessible so people will frequent businesses. And I'm like, okay, actually that is a good point. You know, for businesses to have really interesting to me too is like, how do we like translate and adapt, and like how do we take like these values, right? Or the history that we've learned from the elders in the community, you know, understanding the racism that, you know, was there historically, is still here now. Like, how do we build and like create new things with that, right? But kind of trust that like we can take it forward, right? Like we don't have to do it in exactly the same ways. Like maybe the next generation doesn't want to like every party to be a banquet. Like maybe we want to have picnics in the park.
But honestly, what I would visualize Chinatown to be is more of a modern interpretation of China. Like I'd love to see, you know, like the family marts or the, you know, more hot pot or more karaoke bars or Muji, Uniqlo. I really want it to be more modern. You know, I would picture Chinatown to be like a White Ave type of style where like people will want to come here on a Friday night and experience Chinese culture. That's what I would visualize it to be. Because then it becomes like a chicken or the egg thing, right? Like you need businesses to like attract people, but you need people to come here first in order for businesses to want to come here. So it's definitely a dilemma, but I do hope that things just like the Chinatown pick up. You know, it's kind of just like a start. You know, it gets the conversation going.
Hey, your turn.
In terms of my personal thoughts on what my ideal Chinatown would be in the future, I would ideally want a Chinatown that is one modernized while keeping traditional artifacts intact and traditional values, such as some of the restaurants who have been here for decades, and even my dad, who has a personal attachment to them as he used to work for some of these businesses in the area. Chinatown, while it is its own cultural entity, the reality is it is also on Treaty 6 territory, Indigenous land. So having a way to acknowledge that as well and prosper with not only the Indigenous community, but also all of the other minority communities in our city. So there isn't any discrimination towards each other, but a way for us to all prosper in a society while keeping our values that we all have as individuals that are part of our culture.
And what I want to tell is that we're worthy of being written in the Canadian history book, and not as a almost like as an add-on. I always feel like an add-on. We need to be represented in the history books as being one of the main influencer of or driver of the Canadian nation building. You know, like all that is important. People ask, well, why do you want to preserve Chinatown or save Chinatown? What's there to save? I think people have to understand that we are part of Canadian history. We are part of this nation. And so we need to, if we don't say that we are part of this, nobody's going to say it for us. So we need to be able to stand up and say, hey, you know, we built this country alongside with you. The Chinese history is more than laundries, restaurants, and whatever. There are so many other things that we can talk about the Chinese people here. We don't just care about Chinatown, we care about the city itself that we live in. So, and in a way, when we care about Chinatown, we really is caring about Edmonton as well too. So how can you separate the two? You just can't.
So Saturday's the full day event.
Okay.
It was run by 2 student groups. They were looking for a real life case. And then we kind of pitched from Chinatown.
Yeah, we should be. And we are solar consultants. So the problem we're trying to answer today is how can CTC revitalize Chinatown into a destination that is attractive to both businesses and consumers?
So, some bonus thoughts from Team Pivot, one of the groups at this Chinatown case competition that I was brought out to by William quite spontaneously one weekend during the making of this documentary. I was curious in hearing from Team Pivot about how they connected with Chinatown and saw its value, especially from a relatively younger perspective.
I feel like, even though I'm not Asian, I feel like for me it would be like a failed mission, I guess, like to integrate like part of the Chinese and Asian community into that. It's like, so they made it, but then the city wasn't able, or the city wasn't able to like integrate them and like make sure they have a vibrant Chinatown like other cities. Like it's kind of like, why did Edmonton fail to do that? But like Richmond and Montreal and New York and LA, why were they able to do that? So it just, yeah, and Canada's known for being diverse, so it's like, it would seem like a failed mission almost. Yeah.
And I just feel like it is really important to have a community and a second home for Asian people in Edmonton. And right now I feel like the people from like Asian are separate from all over the city. So I think Chinatown, the importance of Chinatown is to gather all the people together and to hold a really strong and vibrant community, and then to spread their culture together. So that will make the community and the city to more like increase their cultural diversity. Yeah.
I think that bringing youth into the conversation is definitely one of the most important things, because we are the future, and like I said, growing up, I didn't have much of a voice, and a lot of us want to be heard. So I think it's about collaborating with different groups. I know of, there's a lot of Asian culture things that are getting popular in pop culture nowadays, if you're talking... Yeah, bubble tea. I'm a big K-pop fan, anime, so Japanese culture, also a lot of Chinese culture. I know a lot of my friends, Chinese food is probably the big thing, Korean barbecue. Yeah, we all love and want to embrace the culture, and I think our generation is the most ready to do so. And it's about maybe making more festivals, making more things that people want to attend. After the pandemic, I know we all just want to go out.
So I know for like youth like my age, around 20, early 20s, we like to go out on nights, Friday, Saturday nights, and have a good time. And so for our case competition, Chinatown case competition, one of our solutions was to have a night market. So have those street vendors and try and bring that place to life as much as possible. And so I feel like incorporating something like that would allow for, youth like us that are trying to get out on a Friday, Saturday night to really explore the city and explore Chinatown, and not only have a good time, but learn more about Chinese culture and embrace it as much as possible.
I think to a certain extent, I feel like a lot of cultures, not just Asian, I feel like they've all been kind of pushed together. Like a lot of immigrants, I remember going to middle school and high school, it would be Asians and other immigrants, they've been pushed together. I'm Peruvian, but I feel like I relate more to Asian. I have mostly Asian friends, because the culture, we've been kind of pushed aside a little bit. And I feel like we wouldn't be pushing the other culture. We wouldn't be pushing Chinese culture away. Instead, we would be collaborating and more, sharing our experiences, more strengthening our cultures, I feel like.
And I think looking at a lot of the challenges that kids face nowadays, a strong sense of community, a strong sense of belonging, a strong sense of identity and pride in who they are is so important. And I think if I had never connected to Chinatown and through the Chinese community, if I didn't have this developmental opportunity, I wouldn't have as strong of a sense of identity as I do today. I think if there's a message I wanted to get out there, specifically to Chinese Canadians, because I think we're a group that will find a lot of natural ties and such here. It's to say, come take a look. Spend some time here, and through Chinatown learn your history a little bit. No matter how young you are, how old you are, it's you'll be amazed to find how many connections and how many shared stories you'll find here. And when we look at the history we share, it's and when you're familiar with that, and when you learn that, when you own it, you take it with you, and you're able to contribute so much more. Whether you're in the classroom or you're sitting at a board table or you're at work, it's a part of who you are, and that's our shared failures, shared successes, shared journeys. There's a lot there for us to all take from. And along with that, let's build some future successes. I'm sure we'll have some future failures as well, but let's roll up our sleeves and do some work.
See me. So, I was supposed to be working on the script and the content for this very episode that you're watching right now. And, with my own schedule, I was supposed to be working on the community safety part. You can see right here. Where is it? Right there. And literally today, May 19th, 2022, the news came out that there were 2 separate physical assaults to 2 Chinatown employees, workers, residents, and they both passed away. They both died. This is literally the worst thing that could happen for Chinatown. And I'm still processing it, even though I heard of the news over 8 hours ago. I haven't made progress with the script and the planning because I am just trying to process and see what the reaction to this has been. And I feel conflicted. I don't really know what to say or how to feel, but I think there's no denying that the urgency for everyone coming together and supporting each other at a time like this, and maybe education on how we got to this state where 2 men can be attacked in the middle of the day, late afternoon, in Chinatown on a Wednesday. What brought us to this? What brought us to these acts of violence.
Thank you.